If you use any native instrument software, the chances are you probably use Komplete Kontrol. In this video, I will give you 7 reasons why I love it. Now, there are probably more than 7 reasons, but these are my 7 top reasons why I use it all the time. If you don't have Komplete Kontrol, I will show you where to get it for free, along with lots of other cool stuff. So, Komplete Kontrol, what is it? It's a shell program. It doesn't make any sound by itself, but it lets you store and organize and sort through all your instruments and all your presets in one place. It'll run as a standalone application and also as a plugin, which is where you're probably going to use it the most. So number 1, and this is probably the main reason why I love it, it contains all your instruments and sounds and presets. Let's take a look. So this is Komplete Kontrol. This is the standalone version, although the plugin version works more or less exactly the same way. I shall point out a couple of differences as we go along. So as I said, it is basically a shell. There is nothing loaded here, but if we click on the Instruments tab, then you see all the compatible instruments, and I'll talk about that also in a moment. You can see all the compatible instruments which it recognizes and which you have on your system. So of course there are all the native instruments. Arturia's V collection is here, and instruments by other manufacturers as well. So it has all these instruments, it has all the presets. So if we just come out of this, you can see all the presets here, and we can't see a lot. This window will resize according to what instrument is loaded. I think they could have added a resizable function here, because when this is blank, when there's nothing in it, or if there's a small instrument in it, we'll see this in a second, the presets appear down here. And you can scroll through all the presets. So this has all the presets from all the instruments in your system. So they are all in one place. And this is unbelievably handy, because it means you don't have to load individual instruments to find a particular preset. Also, to help you find your way through what might be hundreds of thousands of presets, you could select various types here and also various characters. So there are a lot of tags. You can create your own tags, and you can tag individual sounds as well. So we can select this. You can select multiple tabs by holding down Control. I've no idea what I've selected here. So and you can select different characteristics, and this will narrow the range down so you can more easily and quickly home in on the sounds that you want. Number 2, and this is a massive time saver, previews. When you select a preset, I hope you could hear that. When you select a preset, you actually get a preview of it. And this is before the preset has loaded or the instrument has loaded. So you can step through the presets very quickly and audition each one of them. So I shall just do that now. Now, I hope you can hear these presets. They are playing through my studio monitors. However, I am only recording them into the microphone, which I am using to speak to you. So they are being recorded in mono, probably a very low level. But I'm doing this for a very specific reason, which I'll get to a little bit later in one of the other points. This is just to demo how Komplete Kontrol works on your system. You would hear these previews perfectly well. I really like the ability to scroll through the list with the arrow keys. It's just easier, it's faster, it's more convenient. So right, let's eventually load an instrument. If you want to load an instrument in the standalone version, we load this one. That sounds nice sound. You can do it by pressing the enter key. The preset is highlighted, so if I press the enter key, it will load. Some of these are sample based, so sometimes they take a little while to load. So this is the synth that was creating the sound. It's Synth Master, and you can see that the window has expanded to accommodate the GUI, and my keyboard, my MIDI controller keyboard is plugged in, so I can play it. I've stumbled across this sound by chance, and I think that's really nice. I'm going to favorite that, which you can do just by clicking on this little star here. Now that a preset has been selected, we can see the instrument that was used to create it, but we can still preview other sounds. Now you will notice that the instrument tab here it's still blank. It's still saying instruments. So we have selected a preset and we see the instrument which has created it, but we haven't actually selected that instrument. We can select a different preset. Let's see what happens with this. And we have a different instrument. This is Massive X, and this has just loaded the preset. It hasn't actually loaded the instrument. So the benefit of this is you still have access to all the presets without loading any of the instruments, although you can see which instrument has been used to create the preset. Okay, so let us now load an instrument for real. So if we click on the Instruments tab, we can see all the instruments at our disposal. So let's just select one. Let's select Alicia's keys, and when you select an instrument with this tab, then the presets, which you can see down here, are restricted to those available in the instrument. And again, if we click on this, and we can step through them, and these are playing all the presets which are available in Alicia's keys. So again, pressing Enter, we can load the preset, and this time the instrument actually loads, and you can see that the presets here are just the presets which are available in Alicia's keys. If you want to go back to audition all your presets, then you can come out of this. So all the presets and from all the instruments and all the sounds, everything is available again, and you can continue your search. And again, all the attributes become available to select from. Reason number 3, banks. So one other great thing about the system is that it not only shows you the individual instruments and the presets, but you can also select sounds by bank, assuming of course that the instrument has banks. Alicia's keys does not, so perhaps that was not my best choice. So let's sign Massive, because that has a massive number of banks, and if we select that, then we can see all the presets which it contains here. So I will just select that. So there we are, there's Massive, there's the interface. You can see the control interface resizes according to the instrument which is selected, and you can see here that Massive has been selected, and there is the banks tab. So if we select the banks tab, then you can see the individual banks, and yes, there are a lot. Now a lot of these come from expansions, and here is the Lone Forest bank. This is one of my favorite expansions. It's a very early expansion, but I think it has lots of super sounds in it. So as usual, we can select individual sounds and we get the preview. And we can select it, well, certainly on the standalone version, by pressing the Enter key and play it from the keyboard. So being able to select banks to see exactly which sounds you have bought if you have bought an expansion is very helpful. And of course some banks are genre specific, so again it's useful to be able to select sounds by bank. Reason number 4, it not only supports native instruments, but it can also support other third-party instruments provided they are NKS compatible. I'll say a little bit more about this towards the end. Right, so I did say Komplete Kontrol will contain all compatible instruments. What does that mean exactly? Well, for an instrument to show up in Komplete Kontrol and list all the banks and the presets and so on, it needs to be NKS compatible. This is a native instrument protocol, and if an instrument is NKS compatible, then it will show up in Komplete Kontrol. Now, third-party developers can make their software NKS compatible if they want. Arturia's V Collection is totally NKS compatible. Rob Papen's synthesizers, I believe, are NKS compatible, and a lot of other companies are producing NKS compatible synths. So if we click on the instrument tab, which now contains Massive to tell us what the instrument is, you can see that you can sort these by vendor or category. I tend to use vendor. You can see the vendors listed here. I sort of know what synthesizers each vendor has, so that works for me. But of course, as I say, you can also sort by category. So these are Native Instruments. There's Arturia's instruments, and also some instruments by third parties which are also NKS compatible. So wouldn't it be wonderful if every synthesizer was NKS compatible? Then all your synthesizers would appear here. You could view all the presets, select all the presets from this one browser, and this is really one of the main reasons why I think Komplete Kontrol is such a super tool, a super utility, a super piece of software. So if you've been working in the box for a while, you probably have dozens and dozens of instruments. I have lots of free instruments, but I've also got lots of instruments that I bought, and not all of them are NKS compatible. So you know the saying, out of sight, out of mind. If I don't see the instrument, if I forget about it for a while, then it tends not to get used. Now, I think that's such a shame. So maybe one day everything will be NKS compatible. I'm not holding my breath, but that would be nice. Reason number 5, it also supports sample loops and one-shots. So if we go back to our Instruments tab, just above that there are 3 little icons. The first one is the one which selects instrument sounds. Now the second one selects loops, and the third one selects one-shots. So many of the expansions, especially those which are predominantly arranged for machine, will have sample loops and sample one-shots, and you can access them from Komplete Kontrol. So here we have selected the loop. So if we okay, so something these things loop, yes, so some of them are quite long. So as I was saying, if we select the loop, then we can preview them in the usual way. And if we select one, let's just press enter. So you get to see the loop, and you can play it. So by pressing the key on the keyboard, you can also edit it by changing the start point and the end point. And one of the neat features is if you right click on the sample or the loop, you can find out exactly where the file is on your system. Now with a lot of these instruments, they can put files all over the place. That is the subject of another video, perhaps tidying up your system on your hard drives and working out where everything is. But you can find a sample or a loop that you like, and this will show you where it is, and then you can take it and you can drag it into your DAW if you want to further manipulate it. Let's just have a look at some one-shots. A lot of drums. So this is a one-shot. I'm playing this longer than I thought. I'm playing this on the keyboard. So that works in a similar way. So again, through Komplete Kontrol, you can select and do some little bits of editing and find out exactly where sampled loops and sampled one-shots are on your drive to further manipulate them. Reason number 6, when running in Komplete Kontrol, instruments automatically map macros to controls on Native Instruments keyboards. So we'll stick with Massive and use that for the next example, and that is the use of macros which are automatically mapped to Native Instruments keyboards. Now there are currently 3 keyboard series, and they all map macro controls to the keyboards. The S series, which I have, the A series, and the small sort of mini M series. So on my keyboard, if you look at the screen, you will see that I am twiddling the controls here, and you can see the controls at the top moving. Now, obviously it depends what controls and macros are assigned to as to what sort of results you're going to get when you twiddle the dials. But this is a super fast, super easy, super convenient way to adjust controls on the instruments themselves without clicking and dragging with the mouse. And I think that was possibly one of the biggest disadvantages of software, is you can only control or change one parameter at a time, and you have to move the mouse around the screen and click and drag. So it is really easy and convenient, in my opinion, to use encoders and some sort of hardware controller. Now, if you don't have a native Instruments keyboard controller, then you can map a different MIDI controller keyboard to the system. I don't know too much about that because I haven't needed to do it, but it's something worth checking out if you have a different MIDI controller keyboard. And reason number 7, and this is possibly a more personal reason for myself, but I also think it could be useful for everyone. If you have a native Instruments keyboard and run Komplete Kontrol, it will actually talk to you. So yes, this is one of my favorite features, and it is a fact one of the reasons why I bought the S series keyboard, because it actually talks to you. Now, I am using the S49 Mark II. Before this I had the Mark I, and the Mark II had been out probably for about a year before I read somewhere that it could actually talk. So as you may know, if you have seen some of my other videos, I have a degenerative eye condition, so this is incredibly helpful for me. But also I think it could be helpful even if you have perfect vision. So I've seen this mentioned in a few forums before it became, I don't know how widely known it is, but certainly before it became widely known, and people will complain that the keyboard was talking to them. How did they switch off the voice? And of course I really wanted to switch the voice on. So on the S49, for example, you switch accessibility mode on, as it is called, by pressing the top leftmost button and the top rightmost button. This happens to be the shift button on the left and the mixer button on the right, so we'll switch on the voice.
Accessibility on.
So I've switched accessibility on. Now, in order for this to work, you do need to be running Komplete Kontrol. If you're not running Komplete Kontrol, then you will not hear the voice. Also, on my system, I have configured the voice to play through my computer speakers, not the monitor speakers. That way I can adjust the two volumes separately. And that is why I'm playing the sounds and the speech through the microphone and not trying to record them digitally as I would normally. So again, just using Massive as an example, the rotary encoders are touch capacitive sensitive. So if I touch the first one,
length 70, length 70.
And it tells you what the control is and what the value is.
Length, rev CLR, delay,
Oops.
60s ENV mod, length 70. Length 70. ENV mod 56. Rev CLR 57. Delay 66.
So this is really useful. You can tell what the controls are,
Rev CLR,
and it tells you what the values
51,
are.
58. 71.
So
58.
thank you. It tells you what the values are as you're adjusting them. So I just find this very useful. But also, in addition to that, on the keyboard, it will read out the vendors and the instruments and the presets. So if I press the quick browse button,
Quick browse. Vendor, all vendors. Vendor, all native instruments. Abbey Road 60s, Abbey Road vintage drummer, analog battery. Drum lab. Evolve mutations 2, FM8. Kinetic metal, contact, Skype massive, bank, arcane attic, carbon decay, preset, bubbling, clouds, deeper, downtown, fabric, freak, ghostly step, Halloween 1.
so you can see on the screen that as I move the encoder on the keyboard, the controls on the screen also move. So I have selected Arturia here. So if we move on to the next encoder,
product, all products.
It selects the product.
ARP 2600 V3, augmented voices, B3 V2, Massive.
I've selected Massive again. I know we're majoring on Massive. It's getting a massive amount. Oh, stop making silly jokes here. So, depending on what instrument you have selected, the next control may do something like select bank.
Bank. All banks.
So,
Bank. All arcane attic.
that's another.
Carbon decay.
Yes, so these are some of the early expansions that I bought. I really like some of these. So you can step through the banks.
Caribbean current.
And it tells you what they are.
Type. All types.
And then as we move along, you can select the type.
Type. All types. Character.
And
all characters.
And the character. And there is a big
preset. Barrio acid.
And
preset. Barrio acid.
And there is a big control on the keyboard which lets you select the presets.
Preset. Barrio acid. Woodleg. Voltrava. Shatter blocks. Cheap cook. Clang soy.
So I'm selecting these with the big rotary encoder on the keyboard. So I just think that is so neat. It is so helpful, certainly if you have problems with your eyesight. But I think even if you don't, there's a big display on the keyboards which shows you the little pictures of the instruments, and you can see the banks and the presets, and it is so easy to select these on the keyboard rather than clicking around Komplete Kontrol with the mouse. So a bonus reason, if you like. In a recent update just a month or two back, Komplete Kontrol eventually included support for VST3 instruments. Now on the surface that's not going to make a big difference to the way it works and the way it operates. However, VST3 seems to be taking over from VST2. When you install a plugin, you usually get a list of options asking what you would like to install of 32-bit VST2, 64-bit VST2, 32-bit VST3, AAX, all this sort of stuff. As I am running a 64-bit system, I have usually installed the 64-bit versions of VST2 and VST3. Just on the off chance that I might need both for some reason I don't think I ever have. But this means when I'm looking through a list of instruments in Cubase, which is my current DAW of choice, many of the instruments are actually duplicated. It's probably no big deal, but it's just nice to have a tidy system. So recently I have just taken to installing only the VST3 versions. Now I think there are some questions around VST2 and VST3 with Macs, or with certain Macs, or with the newer Macs, or running in whatever mode these Macs run in. I don't have a Mac, so I'm a bit vague about the details. But as I understand it, Macs are moving away from VST2 support, so possibly in the not too distant future, everything will be VST3. Now, one of the aspects of Komplete Kontrol is that in order for an instrument to appear in it and be part of the system, it needs to be NKS compatible. NKS stands for Native Control System, of course. Now, not everything is. If you scour the web, you may find NKS libraries for a range of different instruments. However, one very enterprising company called Freelance Soundlabs has made a point of producing NKS libraries for a range of instruments from other companies. Let's take a quick look. So this is the Freelance Soundlabs page where they list all the NKS libraries for software which is not natively NKS compatible. So you can buy one of these or several of these and you get NKS compatibility with Komplete Kontrol. So you can integrate these pieces of software with Komplete Kontrol and all your other NKS products. And you can see there is an absolute ton of support for various products from various manufacturers. It does sort of beg the question, if Freelance Soundlabs can do it, why don't other companies produce native NKS compatible software? Oh well, loads of options here. So if your favorite piece of software is not natively NKS compatible, there is a good chance that Freelance Soundlabs has an NKS library for it. So well worth checking out, I think, to integrate all your software in one place. Link to the Freelance software, link to Freelance Soundlabs, link to Freelance Soundlabs, of course, in the description. Now, if you don't already have Komplete Kontrol, I hope you can see why I like it so much. If you would like a copy for free, along with lots of other cool bits of stuff, then you can get it from Native Instruments. It's called Complete Start, link in description of course. This is the Complete Start page. You can see all the advantages of using Komplete Kontrol here. You can have a look at the page, scroll through it, see if this appeals to you. And you do get a lot of software instruments. I think there's over 2,000 presets and sounds and all sorts of stuff. It's a little taste of what you can get if you have a full version of Komplete Kontrol. And if you were in the market for a MIDI controller, if you buy a Native Instruments MIDI controller, then you get a version of Komplete Kontrol with even more goodies than the free version. So I think that is well worth checking out as well. If you would like to know more about the complete range of software, then check out these videos. As always, I really appreciate you spending your time with me watching my videos. So for that, thank you very much indeed. I'll see you again very soon.